And good morning, viewers, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where we're beaming into your offices or lounge room, because it is a global show. Welcome to Inspire Talk Game Changers on Radio. I am driving it today. I'm Wendy from Elgin Hall, CEO and founder of a business school with a finishing school philosophy for modern executives. And my co-host today is the fantastic Stuart. Stuart is a thought leader and a peak performance success coach, and also a bit of a marketing guru. We're very excited to have a desk. Yes, we're very excited to have a desk, but we're also very excited to have a fantastic guest this morning. Cannot wait to pull out the themes between sport and business. Thought I would set the scene today, and if you haven't already guessed what type of sporting background he's come from, this might help a little bit more. Plus, I've got some flags, and I thought that I wouldn't just be exclusive to this particular AFL genre. So I've got a Melbourne Storm flag up too, or scarf. So we've introduced a little bit of league in there, and you never know what else might pop up. Just a few soccer balls might be bounced across the background. Who knows? So stay tuned. So I'm going to introduce our what is it about desks this morning, our guest. And our guest has done so much that I couldn't memorize it, so I've had to write it down. It's a couple of pages worth. So very excited to have Simon Madden with us this morning, this afternoon, or this evening. His achievements are too numerous to mention, but I'm going to mention them anyway. 15 years teaching, including in a vice principal role, and that is no mean feat. Being an ex-primary school teacher myself, I know that that's absolutely no mean feat. 14 years in IT, media, marketing industries, that's no mean feat either. CEO and founder of Winning, a successful people capability consulting practice. Fantastic. Sought after peak performance speaker. And because that wasn't quite enough for Simon, Simon also played 378 games of AFL football for Essendon. For those that might live in some obscure place in Alaska, AFL stands for Australian Football League. Great game. He was named captain of the club, Essendon Football Club. Very iconic football club, very successful football club based in Victoria, but clearly Australian. Black and red colours. And just trying to think of the logo, but the mascot. Oh yeah, that's it. Named captain of the club, played in 2 premiership teams and selected for all Australian teams on numerous occasions. Involvement in the Players Association, including time as president, and that's a really important association to have and still is. Director of the board of the Essendon Football Club, another extremely pivotal and important role. And he's absolutely and typifies the essence of sustainability, because he's one of the longest serving football players and has one of the longest serving careers in the AFL and VFL history. So combining all this experience with a philosophy and approach and skills and capability in improving people and improving businesses, we're very excited to have him here, and you can see why we've tapped him on the shoulder to be our guest today. So we'll get the ball rolling and get some questions happening here, which we've thought about, which is always good. So the first question, Simon, let me just welcome you first. Simon, over to you. Welcome, before we put you in the hot seat and start firing questions at you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Wendy. It's good to be here. It's great to be part of modern technology and modern broadcasting appeal. Yeah, it's amazing how years ago the only way you could do this would be with a huge camera, a huge microphone in front of you, and wait for that to be broadcast slowly out across the world, and now you can do it in front of your own computer anywhere in the world, so it's fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. Alrighty, so let's get the ball rolling. I'm going to start the first question. We know you are a legend yourself, Simon, but if you could meet a legend, alive or dead, who would that be?
Yeah, very good question. I think from the sporting background, I think it'd have to be Muhammad Ali. I think someone who did what he did, the way he did it, with the dedication, the humour, and the outlook that he had. I think that would be very, very good. And I also think that if there's someone living, I think the leader, the president of the present president of the United States, I think would be very interesting to talk to at the moment about how supposedly the most powerful country in the world, how he sees America and the world in the future. I think that would be fascinating as well. So if I could have two, I'll pick those two.
Okay.
And
yep.
But maybe the president first because he's alive.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's really interesting. That's great. Stuart, over to you.
Yeah, so look, very interesting to hear you say that, Simon, because I've always been very intrigued by the US president as well, so be very keen to get involved with an interview with him. And of course, you know, everybody's moulded by the influences they have in their lives, and to a large degree, some of those stick with us, and we carry them right through for the whole of our lives. Who would be the person that's given you the biggest piece of wisdom in your life, and what was it?
Oh, look, that's a great question. Look, there's been a number of people. I think, well, my mother was a very big influence. Knows nothing about football. Still, well, passed away, but towards the end of her life, still knew nothing about football. But my father died when I was 13, and we had three big boys, an older brother and a younger. I was the middle one. I'm the diplomat in between. And I think raising three teenage boys up to be, well, hopefully good adults on our own, and while I started playing league football, and later on Justin, the younger one, started playing league football too. I started at 16. So be able to keep a family together, have a son two sons playing league football, and do a very good job in a whole lot of other issues. Very, very good. And I think on top of that, I think all the coaches I had along the way would have been male role models for me, so I would have had people who really influenced me in a whole lot of ways. So I think initially those sets of people are the ones who probably shaped my life, and that's more and more that's important in any organisation and in sports teams. And I know in the team I'm involved with, the Essendon and the AFL, there's a whole lot of process goes into. Even though there's someone who might be a great sports person, there's a whole lot of work that goes into what's the person behind the sports person. How will they fit into our culture? How will they fit into our organisation? And in a industry where you need a lot of ego to succeed in sport, how do you fit in with everybody else? And that's really, really important. And more that's becoming important, I think, in our society. We talk about teamwork. The fancy term now is collaboration, but it's still the same thing. We're taught to be independent, and it's very important to be independent, but I think overall the world works on interdependency. That we can't get done what we need to get done unless we're working with other people and collaborating with other people. And that's other organisations, that's other departments in our organisation, that's other people in our department, etc. So once we understand that success comes from interdependence and working with each other and collaborating, and then understanding that your people have to fit in with that, and they have to understand that they have to fit in with that, then you can be more successful. But you've really got to make sure that everybody is holding each other accountable to what they agree to do, and that's very easily said and very, very hard to do, because people say, yes, I will do that, but, or people say, yes, everybody else will do that, but not me, because I'm the most important person in the organisation. And once you understand, and it's a very scary word for a lot of people, and there's a word that is not used a lot these days, but sacrifice. If you can sacrifice something for the greater good, and that's a whole lot of things. That doesn't necessarily have to be a big sacrifice. That might be as simple as holding your tongue in a conversation when you want to shout somebody down, or quickly interrupting into someone's conversation when what you really should be doing is listening to them. Just making small sacrifices for the greater good. From that right through to bigger sacrifices is really, really important in developing a culture. And part of that too is developing a culture is what your leaders do and how your leaders can help direct that culture in the right direction.
Interesting. Yes, it's not unlike the armed forces, is it, where it's the greater good. It's about keeping the world safe or keeping our countries safe, and it's directed from the leaders. And it's interesting too with elite sport around, it is so important for your culture to get it right, because you are in a bit of a goldfish bowl, and everything that culture does is seen. So it has to be on culture, on brand. But I also wonder whether culture radiates out and impacts the viewers or the fans, so they get embraced in the culture and they become a part of the culture as well. Do you have any thoughts on that, Simon? This has gone off the typical questions, but I'd be interested in thoughts around that as well.
No, look, it is because and you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful with the use of, when people talk about branding, it can sound very corporate, and it can sound very shallow. And you want to talk about, we've got this surface brand that looks good out there. We're past that. A lot of people in the world now are past that. I have 4 adult children, and I see how they interact with the world, and I see how their friends interact with the world. And there's got to be a lot more depth to it, or they just don't take it on. And what you find, and I know as a director of the Essendon Football Club, is that we've gone through, for those who don't know, we've gone through a fairly hard last 3 years because of Asada and WADA, which is the peak bodies looking after the drug regulation, and we had issues there with that. So we've got to a stage where we've really had to analyse what our culture is, what it means to us, what it means to the players, what it means to the supporters, the followers, the people involved in the club. And you really do have to look at a greater depth on how you want to connect with those people. Because if you're talking about sport, and it's also, say sport, your shareholders, your members, or your followers, any business, the key stakeholders, if they're not engaged with that business, and that can be the shareholders, or it can be your workers, or it can be your clients, if they're not connected properly with that business, they're not engaged with that business, and they're not really part of your culture, or understand your culture, or connect with your culture, you can lose them easily. So you really have to work on making sure that you are very clear about your culture. And I work on 4 things. When I work with organisation, work with people, I work on clarity, direction, cooperation, and challenge. Really, really clear about where you stand and what you believe in. Make sure you know what your direction is. And that, again, that's clear, but I can see what your direction is. You look at all the challenges that you have to face, and then you have to work on the cooperation needed from all the levels, all the stakeholders, to get to where you want to go. You've got your mate there. It's interesting you're wearing the Bulldogs. You're wearing the Bulldogs jumper, and he's jumped in with you. So it's just making sure that that communication really connects with your people, and it's really, 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 really clear for them.
Sorry about the Bulldogs in the background. They're actually not Bulldogs. It's work-life alignment, isn't it? Work-life alignment, not work-life balance, work-life alignment. We love it. We love it. We roll with the punches, and it's about authenticity in today's world, and it's not unlike what you just said about narrow or depth. It's also about being authentic. So, Stuart, I'm going to put my microphone off and deal with these dogs. You can ask the next question.
Yeah, so interesting, the Bulldog coming together there on the screen. So, look, Simon, really intrigued by what you've been talking about there, particularly in terms of guidance, communication, direction, and the likes. And if you were to look at probably a prime example of somebody succeeding around this, if we look at how the Wallabies are going right now, and Michael Cheika and what he's been able to do with that team and transform them into essentially a World Cup winning team. I mean, they're capable of taking out that competition. And so my question probably is, what are the things that Michael's been doing with that organisation, for want of a better term, and how can we compare that with an application in a business sense?
Yeah, no, look, yeah, good. I think more and more, definitely. Look, you look at, say, a rugby side. I mean, in my team, it's AFL football, but any contact sport, the coach says, or the manager says, put your head over the ball and get it knocked off. And then put your head over the ball again and get it knocked off again, and then put your head over the ball again and get it knocked off. Now, after a while, it doesn't matter how much money you're getting paid, you might not want to do that. I don't really want to put my head over the ball again, right? And so the idea is, what is the vision? What is the vision that he has that has got them together? Because there's got to be something that they all link into and understand and agree to. So there's got to be buy-in. So if the vision is really, really clear, that's a really big starting point. Why are we doing this? The why is becoming more and more important. Then he's got to be really good at communicating that, really communicating that. And more now, and there's a whole lot of studies in this about positive psychology. And there's for some people the idea of positive psychology is a nice little rub on the shoulder and everything will be okay. That's not the way it is. Positive psychology is really analysing what you do well, looking at your strengths, and really being positive about that. And people say that's all you do. No, then you look at where you can improve. Some people like to say weaknesses, that's fine, but you look at them and then you have a positive approach of how you improve that. So in both areas, you're not being positive and negative. You say, right, yes, we are positive, these are your strengths, and we'll keep working on these. We look at these, we can see these aren't strengths, so we're going to be positive about how we improve them. That's really important. But the why now is becoming more important with the younger, and for me, I'm over 50, so anybody under 50 is young, but the younger people in the workforce, if you say to them, do this, and they go, why? And you say, because I say so, historically they would have gone, oh, okay. Now, if you say that, why, they say why, and you say, I say so, they can clearly, calmly in their angst say, well, I won't, because I say so, because you're on even ground. And this is because we've educated our kids, and educated kids will ask questions. So if you don't know how to handle that, then you're in trouble. But if you say to them, do this, and they go, why? And you say, well, for you this, for me this, for the organisation this, and the greater good, and they believe you, and they get the why, they'll do it better. So that's a long answer to a short question, but when the coach or the manager of a sports team says, I'm going to send you out there on the ground to get hurt, and maybe hurt people as well, and they say, why am I going to do this? He can come across with a vision that says we do this, and we end up being, and it's a bit easy to be motivated when you say you can be the world champion in this sport. That's a great motivation. You can talk about the vision and of course the plan that goes with that, but if you can really give them that clear vision and then the plan that goes with it, you've got a really good chance of succeeding. Then you've got to, wherever you can, look at the opposition and find out what they're doing well, what you can replicate, and what they're not doing well and which you can take advantage of. And they're, in the modern world, you can go and look at their website, you can go and look at brochures, you can go and talk to people. Now, you don't have to spend a lot of time on doing that, but one of the really big things about sporting groups, sporting clubs, sporting organisations is that they do rigorous and continual review. And on a Monday morning after a weekend, and most sport, although it can be any time these days, most sports are done on a weekend, the first thing they do on Monday morning is review. What do we do right? What do we do wrong? What can we tweak? What do we have to change? In business, the first thing you do on Monday morning is go into business. And so we have to build in, and might not have to be as rigorous as say sports clubs do, because there's training, and then there's the actual game. Where in business is going on all the time. But we have to build in a review, and if you're just saying, oh, we have an annual review, then you're probably not reviewing enough. And that doesn't mean you have to spend hours on it. If you're just, if you're just spending that little bit of time to saying, how's the next 3 months looking? What have we done? And this is a really important thing, because we can be we can be negative very quickly. We're very quick to say, what are we doing wrong? And that's all right if you look at what you can change there, but you need to look at what are we doing right. If you can understand what we're doing right, you actually understand what we're doing right. Then we can replicate it. We can actually do it again and repeat it. So I think that's really important about that, and having a look at it that way.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just going to talk over top of the dogs, the doggies, the bulldogs. That little tip around, every Monday morning, rather than the annual review, every Monday morning, what do we keep, what do we flip, what do we tweak? That's amazing. You and I had that conversation, and it was almost like a no-brainer. It's like, oh my God, why aren't we all doing this? And I started doing that in my own business, and it's amazing. So instead of just rewriting my to-do list and thinking about stuff like you would normally get through the normal productivity strategies, I did that, and that I've got to recommend that to everybody watching this today. It is extremely powerful. So a really great thing in, yes, we can learn from elite sport and go away and learn from elite sport. Handing it over to Stuart, they need some help with the sound.
The challenges of being online.
And it's everybody gets knocked down. And I know in the sport of football I played, it was you got knocked down physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. And I say spiritually, and people, that's in a very broad sense, but you actually get physically hurt. It actually gets to a stage where you begin to self, what the hell am I doing? And then it actually challenged what you really believed about yourself and how you could handle yourself in the game. So you're going to get challenged and you'll get knocked down, but really good people get up. And I'm sure if you spoke to Richard Branson, he'd be saying, well, it doesn't always work. I've made some mistakes, but you learn from the mistakes, you get up, dust yourself off and keep going. Process of review is stop, start, keep, change. What do I stop? What do I start? What do I keep? What do I change? And that's something where, and you've got to be, you've got to sit the emotion away. It's very hard to do. It's easy to say, hard to do. Sit the emotion away for a moment, because if it's your organisation or your company, or it's really important to, sometimes we have this emotional connection to it, which interferes with how we're making cool, clear, calm decisions. You set the emotion aside for a moment, you go through that analysis, then you put the emotion back in and say, how does that fit in with it? I think that's important for everybody in any organisation.
That's really good too, actually. So it is about continuous improvement and some tools and things around that, stop, start, etc. But you're right, because if we come from it with the emotion still in there, we're not going to get the right answers. But if we can put the emotion aside, but then bring it back, because you need to bring it back at some point, that's, yeah, I really like that. That's really useful as well. So another powerful sentence, continuous improvement, and then tools and things around that, taking the emotion out, putting the emotion back in again. So we could stand here or sit here and ask questions for hours, because you're so interesting, and so the topic is interesting too, pulling together elite sport lessons for business. But we do need to start winding up. So we've got 2 more questions just to wind up. I'll ask the first one and then Stuart can ask the last one. What's left for Simon Madden? What else is out there for Simon Madden?
So there's lots out there to do. I still have to learn to play Sharp Dressed Man on the guitar. I still have to work on my. I'm still I play just a little. I'm playing a rock and roll band as a side piece, so we're still continually working on that. I learned French years ago, and then I've forgotten it all. So I'm in the process of learning some more French, just because it's good for your brain. And I'm thinking about learning the harmonica. So that's those things away from that's the work-life balance. In my work, I just want to keep meeting with people and with organisation, help them understand how they can have a continuous improvement. And that's one of the things people don't understand, because it's one thing to be successful, and it's another thing to stay successful. And that's that. It's an ongoing process, and you know, as I say, you can get the big statement where, life's not a destination, it's a journey. But it's true, because I have a very, and it's not a negative viewpoint. It's just an honest viewpoint. Is life is short, and then you die, and that's the reality of it. And even if you live to be 100, your life is not even a blink in the history of the world. So, in that short life you have, how do you want to live it? Do you want to be negative and self-centered and small-minded, or do you really say, look, I've got X amount of years on this planet. I don't know how many they are, because I'm not in control of that. So what's the best life I can lead for me and the people around me, so that, and people say, oh, what legacy do you leave? I'm not sure. That's for other people to measure. But it's how good can your life be for you and other people around you while you're here? And I think there's a whole lot of things about happiness, and we won't have time for that, but there's a whole lot of measurements of happiness, and one of them isn't money. It's about health first. It is about wealth, a certain amount of wealth, but over a certain time. But it's about relationships, it's about reviewing, it's about meditation, and in any way, shape or form, not mystical meditation, just time out. There's a whole lot of things that make for a better life, and I'm still learning them, I'm still doing it, and I'm still enjoying them.
Wow, that's so true. It's not about just the legacy that you leave, because that's someone else to decide. And often we talk about, yes, we've only got one life, we don't know where we're going, and we focus on giving people advice around the important work things that they should be doing. But you're right, it's about enjoying life for you. So it is about relationships and health and well-being and fun and all that kind of thing. And you use that word around sustainability. And when I introduced you in the beginning, I talked about that you're the walking, talking version of sustainability. So that's key as well, and really interesting. Yes, it is about the long haul and being sustainable. It's not just about fly-by-night stuff with whatever you do. That's fantastic. Thank you. Yeah.
I think the other key thing here, Wendy, too, is as Simon just said, it's about the journey. It's not about the destination, because the journey is full of all sorts of destinations as you go. And I think a lot of people get lost with that item. They just see success as this pinnacle end point that they've got to try and get to, and they forget to enjoy everything else in between and everything that goes towards creating that success. So look, Simon, we've got to wind up in a few minutes, but my final question to you is, what golden nugget can you impart with today for our audience, something that they can take away from this session from you today?
I'm not sure if there's that many golden nuggets, but I think someone said to me a long time ago, be good to the people on the way up because you'll meet them on the way down. And I think that's very important. And I was a very good footballer, and I don't say that because I say it. The people who tell me I was a very good footballer, but that doesn't change me. That doesn't make me a better or worse person than anybody else. It just made me a good footballer. And I think if you show respect to everybody in your dealings with them, whether they're and that's one of the great things about playing league football. You meet the movie star. You meet the I've shaken hands with Sylvester Stallone. I've met the little kid in the wheelchair in the outer. You meet a whole range of people right along across it, and the fact is that you treat them all with respect because you'd hope that they would do that to you.
Yeah, somebody said something recently around you can tell a lot about a person by how they treat the waitress or the waiter. That's so true. Yeah, and I like that. Yeah, treat people nicely because you'll see them on the way down as well. Or that, what is it? Was it Steve Jobs? No, not Steve Jobs, the other one, Bill Gates, that said be nice to the nerd in the classroom too because you'll be working for him one day.
Exactly right.
You never know when karma's going to come back to bite you. So that's a really, yeah, I like that. That's a lovely life tip for all of us. Very sobering, very heart-centered, and that's a great one to end on. So I'm going to wind up now. Thank you so much, Simon, for being our inspiring guest on Inspire Talk, Game Changers on Radio. Lots of tidbits in there for our viewers today, those watching live and those watching the replay. Thanks, Stuart, for being in the co-pilot seat with me. Thank you to the dogs for the light entertainment. And yeah, so signing off, and why don't we go out on a high and let's just sum up our broadcast by coming up with one word that you'd like to leave the viewers on. My word is sustainability. That really resonated for me today. Stuart, do you have one word to sum up?
I think one of the big ones I've got from this today is find your why. I think that's very, very important for everything.
That's great, Stuart. He said that was 3 words. Find your why, but that's okay. And Simon, one powerful word, or you can use 2 or 3 if you must.
For me, it's always about clarity. You get there's so much there can be so much fuzziness, so much a noise in the world out there. And different people find it different ways. But in the end, if you can get your clarity, it's a really good place to start.
Clarity, fantastic. Thank you. Perfect, powerful word to end on. Thanks, everyone, and see you next time.
Thank you.